Welcome to this new edition of the European Report, where we are going to discuss what the Middle East will look like once the war in Iran is over. Of course, with the latest news, we'll also discuss what's happening with this truce between the United States and Iran for 2 weeks. We'll discuss it, of course. With us today to discuss this topic here in the European Parliament in Brussels, we have Spanish MEP Antonio López-Istúriz White, who has a long career in the European Parliament, where he has chaired the delegation for relations with Israel, as well as the network for the Abraham Accords. And today he is also involved in what is named the India, Middle East, Europe Corridor Network Initiative. He is a member of the European People's Party, EPP, political group, and a member of the influential Foreign Affairs Committee. In this position, you have also personally met many of the current leaders in the region. He will be joined by European Coalition for Israel founding director Tomas Sandell. Thank you both for joining me. My name is Yossi Lempkowicz, and this is the European Report. I will start with you, MEP Antonio López-Istúriz. As I mentioned in the introduction, you are, despite your young age, but I would like to start maybe.
That's a good start.
It's a good start. But I would like to start your reactions to the latest news about a truce. What's your first take?
Pues I believe, like everybody, there is no difference nowadays between experts and people that don't know anything about what's going on. No one knows really what's going on through the mind of Donald Trump. How is he going to wake up every morning? And, we are lost. And we are talking about very serious business here, about the survival of our own democratic model, our system of liberties. And this is something that we have to treat carefully. We have to be, in one hand, strong with those who do not share our values, but at the same time, we have to use our values. This is the mixture, this is the essence that has happened in Europe since 1945, where we discovered that the use of force is not at the end the solution for anything. And also maybe that the use of the international law is what we want, but how can you do it with countries like Iran, like Russia, like China, that they don't adhere, that they don't follow these principles or this rule of law, international rule of law? These are the questions that we are making ourselves nowadays. And I would rather much prefer something more, let's say, something that our societies could accept, a solution, long-term solution, not what we are seeing nowadays, where everything changes every 2 days. This is not good for the economical stability, for the societal stability of Europe and, believe me, in the world.
Tomas Sandell, the same question. We spoke from the beginning of this war, we spoke about the possibility of a regime change in Iran. It's not happening. What's your take about this new initiative, the truce between Iran and the US? And also Israel, because they are involved.
Yeah, Yossi, it's very complicated, exactly as Mr. López-Istúriz mentions. On the one hand, we are trying to behave according to a playbook which was invented after the Second World War with a rule of law-based international system. Now everything seems to be in limbo. And I think the last thing that leading superpowers are thinking of at the moment is the people of Iran. And that's in a way the irony, because as was mentioned earlier, we have to uphold these principles that we all subscribe to in the aftermath of 1945 with the creation of the United Nations. Now, of course, in this chaotic situation, there's a lot of discussions about how we apply international law. It was less so during the 47 years of this repressive regime and where the most basic fundamental rights of the Iranian people have been neglected. I would like to bring into the equation this discussion that it's not only about, yes, it's about economic stability, about stability of the rule of law-based system, but what about the people of Iran? Don't they have any rights whatsoever? And then, of course, it's a complicated discussion. How can we ensure through militarily, political, diplomatic, not at least financial means, that they will have a future?
MEP López-Istúriz, as I mentioned in the introduction, you are, despite your young age, I'm insisting, you are something of an EU veteran in the European Parliament. You are sitting here since 2004, yes, right?
That's it.
And you're also involved advancing EU relations in the Middle East. You have also appeared in this European report in the past when we discussed the nuclear threat from Iran. Given this background, did you expect this military confrontation between the Islamic Republic of Iran and Israel and the alliance between the US and Israel? Or did this came as a surprise to you? And also, I would like also to know if there is anything that Europe could have done differently to prevent this war.
Well, first of all, I can understand the frustration of Israel and the United States and their allies in the question that during 50 years the regime of Iran has been using terrorist proxies, has been, remember what's going on in Iraq, in Lebanon, in Yemen. I mean, Iran has destabilized the region during 50 years. So I guess, someone says at a certain moment, enough. Especially when this country is in danger of becoming a nuclear power. And that's the red line, which was always cited even by the European Union during talks for the negotiations of the old JCPOA negotiations. I can understand that frustration. Said so, if you are going to act, at least be sure that the regime is going to be removed. We have a precedent, Venezuela.
Yeah.
I always said Venezuela is not Iran. But even in Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, the representative of the Maduro regime, is still in power. And now Trump says, and this is very, I have to tell you, it's hard for me to say it. I'm half American, you said white.
Yes.
I'm a big supporter. I have always been, since I was born, of the transatlantic relation, of the special relation between the United States and Europe. But seeing the regime of Maduro continuing in Venezuela after removing Maduro, allowing this to happen and saying that the priority is the oil, this is a very bad precedent for what could happen in Iran. You expect people to, the people that you mentioned, Thomas, the real, people that are in need, the Iranian society, to move against, to make a coup against the regime. But what are the guarantees that you are giving them that you will help them when the moment comes? What happened? Declarations of Trump before Christmas, 6,000 deaths on the terrain in Iran. People that went into the streets to protest against the regime, they were killed, tortured and killed. So I think that people in the streets of Tehran, Isfahan, and also us, we all need guarantees that the regime will be removed. And right now, I have to say, I don't see them anywhere to be seen.
And what about Europe? Could have be doing something differently to help the situation, or it's on the sidelines?
Europe is not a military superpower. We all know that. We live with that fact. We are building now our defense. This will take years. It's, a long, a process. But in the meantime, we are an economical superpower. We could use better our tools in this sense. It's not only about sanctions against these regimes like the one in Iran, but also facilitating the trade with countries that are next to us. Not the same way. Maybe they are not exactly 100% the same democracies as we are. But at least they are in a path, like in the Gulf countries, that they are moving slowly, gradually, so that their societies can adapt to a more Western-oriented, policy making. So, I think that Europe should help in that. Nothing to do in the conflict in Iran. We cannot do anything. But, excuse me, we have a big interest in the Strait of Hormuz. There we should be very attentive because, this could be very harmful, if not devastating for our economies, especially next winter. And then help our friends in the area that we have. They don't feel that they have now the support as they had in the past of the United States.
The Gulf
when
countries.
Europe can come in.
The Gulf countries.
Yes, for example, in the Emirates, they are very happy, and they are very thankful that you see Italian or French frigates in their ports also supporting, the defense of the Gulf countries. There are bases, French and Italian bases in the area, and they are very grateful for that. They are asking us, to protect them because they have not fired a single missile against Iran. These people are just victims of this story, of these, tragic circumstances today. Let's be with the ones that are suffering, that are closer to us, that they want to live like us, because their societies, they want, I believe, to live in democracy or with liberties. They want a European model for millions, billions of people in the world. The European model is a model. Sometimes I have a question if inside is the same. Sometimes with all these questions about the European Union. But I have news. Millions of people want to come here to live the dream. So maybe something we have done well.
Tomas Sandell, as I just mentioned, the nuclear threat from Iran has been discussed many times in this program. And did you expect a military confrontation? Would there have been any other options than a military option?
Well, again, I think it's good to put things in context and realize this is not a conflict that started in January. It's been going on for 47 years. Islamic Republic has been very explicit as how they view, the big Satan, the little Satan. I'm not sure if Europe is the mid-sized Satan or whatever, but obviously they don't appreciate, they don't tolerate open, free societies, which we just heard the description of. And that this also includes, of course, the Emirates and the Gulf state. And I think, we have financial muscles that could have been used much more, in a more effective way. Because we have to remember that the Islamic Republic, on the one hand, its ideology, which is fueling the conflict, but not only. I would look at the IRGC in particular today as a global corporation with tentacles all over the world. And it means that you have people, millions, which are financially dependent on that the IRGC, that the Islamic Republic will stay in power. And this also explains why they still side with the regime. So that means that, military intervention is not the only solution. There are perhaps even more effective means of isolating Iran. And I don't think that this was ever really a priority, sadly to say, for our European countries. And we know how long it took to designate IRGC as a terrorist entity to start with. So we had these discussions, 5 years ago, perhaps even 10 years ago, and said, what is preventing Europe from calling a spade a spade? So I think if we had been more diligent from day one, and even from day one, looking back 47 years, who was it that groomed Khomeini, the supreme leader, sent him on a private jet to Tehran to undermine the last Shah? Yes, it was the French, also supported by the US at the time and by other leading European powers. So we have a lot to account for. And when I say this, I feel sorry again for the people of Iran. I think we owe them an apology, but more than that, just clear actions right now, diplomatic, not militarily, because we don't have much to put in, more than maybe symbolically, but to use our financial muscles to...
not appeasement.
Not appeasement, no.
May I introduce, because you spoke about at the beginning in my presentation about the report in Iran, and you also mentioned it now, and about the inclusion of the Revolutionary Guard in the European terrorist list.
Yeah.
It was 3 weeks before this report that I negotiated, that I discovered that everything was blocked by 3 countries. Italy, France, and Spain.
Yes.
In the European Council, as always in the shadows of the European Council.
Yeah.
And then I denounced that publicly. And then, I started to ask the governments of these 3 countries, why is that you are blocking the Revolutionary Guard that is killing thousands of people in Iran and also outside of Iran? Why is that you are blocking this? No answer. Silence. And then the European Parliament, through the report, I said, I negotiated, but I have to say, thanks to the majority of the groups in the European Parliament, because there were of 700 members, approximately at that time, 600 something there were that day, only 9, extreme right, by the way, voted against this report. The rest of the groups approved or abstained, the extreme left, because the extreme left and the extreme right, in this kind of things tend to go always together, And this report from the Parliament, with such a majority, was a blow to the attitude of Italy, France, and Spain. And suddenly they changed, and in the Council it was approved. So now you can see the utility of this Parliament that pressures so much the Council that they had to change this boycott from the 3 countries, and we had finally, Tomas, after many years, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard on the European terrorist list.
Well done, bravo.
And thanks, because this institution is the one elected by the people. So, I think that for once we were up to the representation that we were, not me, but all the 600 that voted in favor of this resolution, or at least they abstained, which for some of them I know it was not so easy.
MEP López-Istúriz, also many have criticized Europe for not doing enough to help the US and Israel in this war. We remember High Representative Kaja Kallas saying that this is not Europe's war. Do you agree with Kallas' statement? I would like also to quote from German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who said that can Europe watch from the sidelines while Israel does the dirty work for Europe?
Look, if during the winter, next winter, we are found, that we have to cut electricity in many, countries in Europe because we don't have oil or gas, then I don't know if that phrase, this is not our war, will be sustained, okay? So I would rather prefer, a more, let's say, European approach. How can we be of help? With our means, which are not military. Let's face it. Our means is to support, with the economy, with doing trade, opening markets like Ursula von der Leyen is doing, and the Commission with countries in the area, bringing stability that could help after this so-called war, could help the stability in the region. That is our, where we should be. Have we done enough? Also the question is, we were not asked. No one asked us. No one informed us about all these initiatives, from Israel or the United States. I have to say it. I'm a big supporter of both countries. You all know that. But, excuse me, in the old times, at least, allies were informed. And also they could take their decisions in a more, let's say, informed situation. This is not the case today. And this cannot continue like this. I think that Trump finally will realize that his despise for the European Union and its institutions, can no longer be sustained. That he has to negotiate, that he has to take into account, the European Union. It's, he's a fighter. He has his character, but he's also a negotiator, as he has demonstrated every time, and I'm sure he will come to terms and he will, arrive to accept that maybe Ursula von der Leyen, Kaja Kallas, Friedrich Merz, and all the prime ministers of the European Union could be allies if you treat them with the respect that, our European Union merits.
The counter-argument, of course, could be that to say that there is a big distrust, and if this was a surprise moment, that's how he planned the military attack, would he really be able to trust everyone in the room, where we know the level of distrust, but also the compliances with the other side? But I agree with you that we have to restore this trust, transatlantically. There's no other way.
If you imply that he could distrust the Prime Minister of Spain, then,
No names mentioned.
While we are sitting here, none of us know how this war will end, but one thing is certain, that finally we hope to see a new Middle East emerging. In what way do you think that this new Middle East will be different from what we have today, Tomas, Sandell?
Well, I see the Middle East as a big chessboard. And like in a chess game, you move one piece, everything else suddenly changes. The constellation dynamics changes. And I think that it's for me at least, it's clear that what comes out after this Middle East will be different in a number of ways. And I just give you one example, just of recent events, how Zelensky was able to establish contacts in the Gulf states, in Saudi Arabia, through basically teaching how to shoot down the drones, and how this already have geopolitical implications for Europe, because this means that Russia is being weakened. But I also think that, for those countries in the Gulf in particular, but also Saudi Arabia, who do not have diplomatic relations with Israel, after this war, I don't think their trust in the Islamic Republic have grown. The tendency would be to say, well, listen, if this issue remains unsolved, who are our allies? And I think that's where Israel comes up, perhaps even stronger than the US. And I hope that you are right, that Europe would see this opportunity and really come in strongly and say that we want to be your allies in strengthening these values. So it sounds altruistic to say that I'm optimistic in a way what could potentially come out of this crisis. But I do see some positive signs.
New Middle East, VP López-Istúriz?
If the regime of the Ayatollah survives, I don't see any new thing coming in. As soon as they recover internet, which they don't have now, they will start to communicate with all the terrorist proxies. And they will start the campaign. And even going further away, because they need also to change public opinions. Maybe Europe, maybe the Gulf countries, maybe the United States, where there is now big movement, not only in the Democratic side, but also in the manga, inside the Republican Party against President Trump. For terrorists, which aim is to change the political opinion, and situation in a country, this is unfortunately an opportunity. And knowing the regime of Iran, I don't think they're going to miss that opportunity.
No.
This is the problem. For the stability of the area, you have to get rid of the regime in Iran. As long as it's there, it's not possible. Should that be happening, then, of course, Middle East, through the Abraham Accords, could become a sort of European Union. Someone would say, oh, you are too enthusiastical. Well, who could say that about the Germans and the French 200 years ago?
Yeah.
That they will be sitting here today together, deciding the future.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, more complicated things in history had happened. Huh?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe I should modify what to say that I completely agree that there needs to be regime change. But realistically speaking, I think even without regime change, it will strengthen the need and the interest of seeking an alliance with Israel. We may disagree on that, but my hope, of course, is regime change, nothing else.
Final question to both of you. In short answer, 1 minute. What should the European Union do in the current situation in the Middle East? You already spoke about it, but I would like to have your insight in prospects.
Again,
Yeah.
we are the largest donors of humanitarian aid. And I'm sure that in Gaza already the European Union's help is arriving. It will arrive in Lebanon, in many areas. We are the largest donors in the world as European Union and as member states inside the European Union. Good, 1 point. Second, let's also, again, as I said before, work with countries that want to be closer to us, give them the opportunity to get closer to us, you know, and let's make now trade agreements and, you know, very commercial. Like the beginning of the European Union, it was about commerce, it was about economy, and it worked. Now we are in the political phase, which still has not, still is under construction, but this is what we should be doing, improving, boosting economy in the area. We should be the first ones there, in order, you know, also to stabilize the region, you know, next to us. Although it's not part of this discussion, let me just add to this fact also Africa, please, and Northern Africa. Crucial for Europe also that the Plan Africa was forgotten. And it's also a battlefield, unfortunately, also for the radicals that are, you know, operating in the Sahel and also in parts of South Africa, you know, that we need also to address this.
Tomas Sandell, very short
Very
answer.
quickly. I think we need to mend relations both with Israel and with the United States. We need to strengthen our transatlantic alliance. I'd like to take this opportunity to appoint Mr. López-Istúriz White as the EU point person in making this happen. I think there's a good chance.
That was all for this edition of the European Report. Thank you, MEP López-Istúriz White and Tomas Sandell, for this interesting discussion on the consequences of the war against the Iranian regime in the region and beyond, and the EU's reactions. To our viewers, as always, if you like our program, please feel free to share the YouTube link with your friends and colleagues. My name is Yossi Lempkowicz, and this has been the European Report. See you again next month.